1989, I think I was with the Times of India. Did the press cover this? Because now you see this footage and the size of that funeral procession, you know. I mean, under any objective criteria, this is a huge event that ought to be covered. And in 89, still the press had not become as commercial as it is today. So I'm just wondering, can you remember from those days whether there was
fairly good coverage at that time?
I couldn't remember.
And also these corollary events like the film festival and Shabana making that big statement there. So it kept getting quite a lot of visibility. Yes, it was, I think, noticed rather well.
I was in Express at that time. And really, the Bombay papers hardly covered it as much as the Delhi papers did, which I think is interesting because we had a similar kind of discussion even, about Madani and in the earlier film. Despite all this the sort of convergence and things that we talk about of the media, there's just this, it operates in these silos. It still does. And there's the silence.
I think like Madani, Safdar was a man who cut across parties as well. Although he was very identifiably of the left and CPM, he had a lot of friends in the Congress, he had a lot of friends in the Janata Party and the other secular parties, maybe not in the BJP and the RSS, but he certainly had friends across the board, and they truly felt very shocked by this. And he was a very talented man as well when he died. So imaginably, if he lived, he would have been a very, very important figure today.
I was thinking that, the theme of this festival is justice. And one, at the sort of very basic level, justice was not done in terms of the murderers being brought to book. And then the whole movement that he represented and was part of and was about demands for justice of various kinds, which are the sort of things we're trying to flag through this festival. And you're looking at this, and it's all that time ago, and you feel so little has changed, but actually it's become more difficult. This protest, spaces for protest have shrunk, the growth of the right wing, I mean all of that all of us are familiar with. So, and you see this, and it sort of creates, so it transcends any nostalgia that one might have, and just sort of, hits you at that sort of level, कि सफदर तो नहीं रहे, सफदर की बहुत ज़रूरत है, और आज और भी ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है, और आज और भी कम.
When I was watching this film again, a thought was coming. I mean, and now I'm speaking on my feet. Actually, I've not thought this through, but it seems to me that when we engage with issues today, artistically, culturally, do we engage with them as certainly as portraying the situation as it is, and also showing how difficult it is. But is there probably a need to create a greater sense of combativeness, a greater sense of fighting this, of organizational combativeness, of challenging what is happening? Or is that a false thing to do? I somehow feel that when the combativeness is missing, to a larger audience, it just looks more and more despairing. It looks more and more difficult, not defeatist, but difficult. And whether one should consciously probably bring in an element of how do you fight this? How do you create an element of counter, of challenging this situation that we find, or is it just a dead end that we are portraying, however sensitively, however graphically, however shockingly? Is a thought, something we should probably think about.
I don't have to ask anything. I just want to congratulate you, the curator, for selecting such good films.
Thank you. We're now coming to this session called Fugitives from Hate. And we have 3 films. The first is Anirban Datta's 5 Exchange Lane. The second is Ek Aakhri Panah, and it is made by students from TIS as part of a larger project remembering 1992. And Kalpana, you were talking about 1992 is not so much referenced. We jump straight from talking about 84 to 2002, and this was one attempt which is very interesting, where students who many of whom weren't even born then, made these films as people who are now in Bombay, and how do they remember 92? And then, so Piyush Garud is one of the filmmakers, and he's here. And then we have Kaya Taran, which is the closing film, which is by Shashi Kumar. And I just want to, because we're running rather late, I just want to say that do any of the filmmakers who are here, and there are also two people with us, Kausar and Yasmin, who are from Renuma and Awaz and is associated with the organization shown in Ek Aakhri Pana. वो भी हैं हमारे साथ. Does anybody want to say anything before we see the films? To give any sort of perspective, or I'm being very informal about this. I'm not sort of asking everybody to come up and introduce the film. हम एक के बाद एक देखेंगे, लेकिन उससे पहले किसी को कुछ कहना है क्या? Anirban, do you want to say something just before we watch, because yours is the first film?
So this film that you're going to see right now, it's a very personal film. It's a film that I made for my children, and they used to ask their mother where was her home, and that was a constant question as they were growing up, and the mother never said their home was Delhi. She always referred to Kashmir, and they had migrated in 1990. So this is a story about the family going back to that home which they had left, and we actually shot it. I didn't know I was going to make a film. We just wanted to capture the moment of their going back, and I have my dear friend Shayak, he shot it with me, so we just went for a holiday, all of us together, and this was made. So have.
हमें ये इम्प्रेशन था कि हम 2-3 महीनों में वापस आ जाएंगे.
एक सैलाब सा लोगों का उमड़ आ तो गया, कोने कुदरों में भी आबादियां बसा तो गया.
हमारे लिए मंदिर के बराबर ही है. तो जो भी व्यक्ति गुजरता है, जैसे चाहे वो हिंदू चाहे मुसलमान, सर झुका के ही गुजरता है. हर जगह माइनॉरिटी मेजॉरिटी की गुडविल पर जिंदा है, और एक ही इंडिया जहाँ इन्हें सर पर चढ़ा कर रखते हैं. वो तो क्या बात कर रहे हो यार.
Actually, we have been planning to go back there for many years. So there was a small visit before this, when I had gone to Srinagar to conduct a workshop in the Kashmiri in the university there with young people, and at that time the whole place was much more militarized than what it is right now. And at that time, almost after 22 years, I had actually opened the house. That was the first time that the house was opened, and the portion of the house was occupied by some other people, and they were resisting me entering the house, and I had taken some still shots at that time, because Kirti's father and the whole family had very vivid memory of the house, and one of the telling incident was that her father told me that go to this room, and on this shelf the third book I haven't read. So he asked me to get that book. So it was a very emotional thing. I called them up from that house, and then the family started telling me, go to that room and can you get me that thing, that kind of very small things, books and some small thing. And by the time we went back, it took another 7 years to convince, and it was not me who convinced, because it was very painful for the whole family to go back there, and they didn't want to go back. It was my son especially who kept on asking Kirti to go back, and we want to see that house. And at that time, we just happened to take the camera, and I also asked my cinematographer friend Shayak, he's sitting there. I just told him if he wants to come along, so he came along, and that's how it happened.
Perhaps you could explain to people what gave you the idea of revisiting 1992, which I think for all of us Bombayites was a really traumatic experience for those of us who were old enough to experience it, because it shattered our whole idea of Bombay. I mean, it never ever thought that such a thing could be possible. And its effects still are there today, as you've shown. but what gave you the idea that we should, remember it in such a concrete form?
The idea came as to make as a series. In a class of 20, we were divided into groups, and we were supposed to come up with films around the series. So my group, we were looking for ideas, what exactly can we do? And I personally grew up in Mumbai, so I wasn't that old. I was 4 years old, but I still have some faint memory. My window is closed, and in some small peephole, I'm looking at something, and somebody is running behind some person with the sword in his hand. That's very vivid memory. I'm not sure whether it's clear or not, but I can remember that distinctively. So that was also one of the things which really drove me. We should do something very specific, and a topic. Mumra came because I used to travel from Kalyan to Govandi daily from my home to college. And I've been traveling local trains for many years. But one thing I always noticed whenever Mumra came, अरे यार छोटा पाकिस्तान आ गया, अरे यार पाकिस्तान आ गया, अरे अब ये तो यहाँ पे तो आतंकवादी आते. So that always kind of stayed with me. Even when I was kid, I started college, then I went to TIS. So I thought, why not look at Mumra and how Mumra changed? And fortunately, my senior batch has made a film with Awaz and Nisman the year earlier. So that also kind of gave us the confidence that we have someone to approach with. We don't have to go into Mumra and look at and search for the characters. So we went there, we found few characters, and we were supposed to make a film around this family of mother and 2 daughters. But somehow the Assam riots happened, and then they got scared. So they said we are not going to come on camera, but fortunately we found Fauzia and Seher, and they became the voice of our film.